She danced with the pale boy in the wheelchair simply to bring a smile to his face. The waitress had no idea that his father, watching from the shadows, was a vampire king who hadn't experienced warmth in 1,000 years. That single dance was about to change everything. The storm arrived with greater force than the forecast had predicted. Clara wiped down the final booth as rain pounded against the diner's salt-stained windows. Beyond them, the Pacific Ocean roared with what seemed like fury and life. It was almost midnight, 3 hours beyond closing time, but the storm had trapped her inside. The coastal road was flooded and her aging Honda wasn't going anywhere tonight. She had been working at Maggie's seaside diner for 6 years. 6 years of refilling coffee cups, serving burned toast, and answering tourists who asked whether they could spot whales from the parking lot. At 28, she had imagined more for herself. However, after her mother's medical bills crushed her dreams of attending art school, this small diner had become her entire world. The jukebox in the corner flickered. Clara had been meaning to unplug it. The machine was older than she was, and recently it had been playing songs without anyone inserting quarters. Another crash of thunder shook the building. She reached for her coat. That was when headlights cut through the rain. Clara froze. Who would drive in conditions like this? A black car? No, not just any car. A Rolls-Royce, gleaming like oil on water, pulled into the gravel parking lot. It seemed out of place here, far too elegant for an establishment that served hash browns on chipped plates. The driver's door opened. A tall, lean man stepped out, dressed in a black overcoat that remained perfectly still despite the wind. He moved around to the passenger side, and when he opened that door, Clara's breath stopped. He lifted out a boy, pale as moonlight, perhaps 12 or 13 years old, and carefully settled him into a wheelchair. His head tilted slightly before he straightened himself, gripping the armrest firmly. Even from inside, Clara could observe how fragile he appeared, as though he were constructed from glass and candlelight. The man pushed the wheelchair toward the diner. Clara quickly unlocked the door. We're closed, but... She stopped herself. When she looked closely, the boy's eyes were the softest shade of gray she had ever seen. "Come in, please. You shouldn't be out in this weather." "Thank you." The boy's voice was barely above a whisper, yet it carried a peculiar warmth. "I saw your lights. I was hoping." The man, his father, Clara assumed, stood rigidly behind the wheelchair, water streaming from his coat, though somehow it never quite seemed to touch him. His face was sharp and aristocratic, with dark hair swept back and eyes that appeared to absorb the dim diner light. He didn't smile, and he rarely blinked. He said, "My son would like to hear your jukebox, if that's acceptable." Clara glanced at the boy, whose eyes had brightened at the mention of the jukebox. Something about his expression, so hopeful, so achingly young, touched something deep within her. "Of course," she smiled. "It's been acting strangely lately, but we can try." She walked to the jukebox as the boy watched her every movement. His father remained by the door, completely motionless, not shifting his weight, not dripping water despite being soaked, just watching. Clara pressed a button. The jukebox hummed to life, glowing amber and red. An old song began to play, "At Last" by Etta James. The boy's face transformed. "This song," he breathed. "My mother loved this song." The word loved hung in the past tense. Clara understood loss. She knelt beside his wheelchair. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" "Would you..." He hesitated, his pale fingers trembling on the armrest. "Would you dance with me? I know it seems strange. I know I can't stand, but..." "Hey!" Clara gently touched his hand. It was cold. Extremely cold. "Who says you need to stand in order to dance?" She looked up at his father, expecting protest. Instead, his expression had shifted. Something raw and nearly broken flickered across his features, before disappearing behind that marble-like mask. "Do what makes you happy, Noah," he said quietly. Noah. The name suited him perfectly. Clara stood behind the wheelchair, placing her hands on the handles. "Ready?" The boy nodded and she began to move. slow circles around the empty diner, spinning him gently as Etta James sang about love finally arriving. Noah closed his eyes, a smile spreading across his face. He raised one pale arm, moving it as though he were waltzing with invisible partners. "Faster," he whispered. Clara spun him more quickly, their shadows dancing across the walls. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, and for just one moment, Noah appeared almost healthy. Color touched his cheeks, his breathing deepened. From the doorway, his father watched. Clara caught his reflection in the window and immediately wished she hadn't. His eyes had changed. The irises were no longer brown or gray. They glowed faintly crimson, reflecting the jukebox light like an animal's eyes in headlights. She blinked. The red was gone. Just a trick of the stormlight, she told herself. The song ended. Noah slumped in his chair, exhausted but radiant. "Thank you," he whispered. "I felt alive, truly alive." His father moved then, swift and silent, crossing the diner in 3 strides. He placed a hand on Noah's shoulder, protective and possessive. "We should go." "But father," Noah's face fell, though he nodded. He turned to Clara, reaching into his coat. He withdrew a wallet and placed $500 bills on the counter. Clara's eyes widened. "That's far too much. The diner's closed. I can't." "You gave my son something precious." His voice was softer now, almost human. "I cannot give him that." He paused at the door, rain pouring beyond. "We'll return tomorrow if that's acceptable." Clara found herself nodding, though she didn't understand why. As they left, Noah twisted in his chair, waving weakly. Clara waved back, watching the Rolls-Royce disappear into the storm. She locked a door, her hands trembling slightly. The money still lay on the counter. Too much. Too strange. She picked up the bills and noticed something unusual. They were old, very old. The dates ranged from 1952 to 1981. Outside, lightning split the sky. In the parking lot's puddles, something dark rippled. Shapes that appeared almost human, swimming beneath the surface before vanishing. Clara's phone buzzed. A text from her coworker, Jenny. "Are you okay? The storm's getting worse. They're saying to stay off the roads." She texted back. "I'm fine. Something strange just happened, though." "Strange how?" Clara stared at the red glowing jukebox, at the ancient money, at the window where those crimson eyes had been. "I'll tell you tomorrow." Perhaps she wouldn't sleep well tonight. Something about the boy's cold hands, the father's unnaturally still presence, the way neither of them seemed entirely real. But what haunted her most was the expression in the father's eyes when Noah smiled, as though he were witnessing something both dying and being reborn simultaneously, as though he understood exactly what his son was becoming, and as though he would do anything to prevent it. Clara believed they wouldn't return. She convinced herself that the storm, the dance, the impossible money, it was all just one peculiar night, a story to share at bars, nothing more. Yet when her shift began at 5 o'clock the following evening, she found herself watching the parking lot.
"You're distracted," Jenny said, pouring coffee for a family of tourists. "Did the storm scramble your brain?" "Something like that." At 7:43, the Rolls-Royce returned. Clara's heart pounded against her ribs. She observed the same ritual, the father lifting Noah from the car, settling him into the wheelchair with movements too graceful to be entirely human. But something was different tonight. Noah looked better. His cheeks held color, faint like watercolor on paper, but present. His eyes were brighter. When he smiled at her through the window, it wasn't the smile of a dying boy. It was genuine joy. The bell chimed as they entered. Jenny's jaw dropped. "Welcome back," Clara managed, grabbing 2 menus she already knew they wouldn't need. "A booth in the corner, please." The father's voice was warmer tonight. Still formal, still unusual, but less like speaking with a statue. Clara led them to the quietest booth. Noah wheeled himself partially, his father's hand barely guiding him. Progress. The boy had hardly moved independently last night. "You look well," Clara said, and she meant it. Noah beamed. "I feel well. The dance—" He glanced at his father, who gave the slightest nod. "It helped more than medicine usually does." "He has a rare blood disorder," the father explained, his eyes never leaving Clara's face. "Most treatments make him weaker, but sometimes joy proves stronger than chemistry." There was something in the way he said blood disorder that made my skin prickle, as though he were simultaneously telling the truth and lying. "What can I get you both?" "Cherry pie," Noah said immediately, "and hot chocolate with extra marshmallows." His father ordered black coffee. Of course he did. As Clara walked away, she heard Noah whisper, "She's kind, isn't she?" Yes. Too kind. What did that mean? Clara prepared their order, acutely aware of the father observing her every movement. Not creepy watching, more like studying, as though she were a painting he was trying to comprehend. When she brought the pie, her hand slipped. The knife clattered. A thin, red line opened across her index finger. Damn it. The father moved. One moment he was seated, the next he was standing 6 feet away from the table, rigid as iron, his hand gripping the booth's edge so forcefully that the vinyl cracked beneath his fingers. His nostrils flared, his eyes, just for a heartbeat, flashed that impossible crimson again. "Father!" Noah's voice was small, frightened. Clara grabbed a napkin, wrapping her finger quickly. "It's fine, just a scratch." The father's jaw worked. Whatever battle was occurring within him, he was losing. "We need to leave." "But the pie!" "Now, Noah." The command was absolute. Noah's face crumpled, but his father was already moving, seizing the wheelchair handles. He threw a $100 bill on the table, another old one, Clara noticed, from 1967. "I apologize. My son, his condition makes me overly protective. Too protective." Then they were gone. Clara stood there, blood seeping through the napkin, watching the Rolls-Royce disappear into the purple twilight. Jenny appeared at her side. What on earth was that? I don't know. But she did know. She understood the way he'd reacted to her blood, understood the inhuman speed with which he'd moved, understood that those eyes hadn't been a trick of light. "Stay away from them," Jenny warned. "Wealthy eccentrics are the worst kind of eccentrics." Clara nodded, but her eyes remained on the darkening ocean. That night, the seagulls went wild. Clara lived in a small cottage near the cliffs, close enough to hear the waves. Typically, the gulls settled after sunset, but tonight they screamed, hundreds of them, rising from their nests in panicked clouds. She stepped onto her porch. The air felt electric, charged with something that made her teeth ache. Below, near the tide pools, shadows moved incorrectly, too fluid, too swift. Something pale broke the water's surface. A face, perhaps, or merely foam catching moonlight. Then it vanished. Clara's finger throbbed where she'd cut it. She unwrapped the napkin. The wound had already closed, but the surrounding skin looked different, paler, as though the blood had been drained rather than spilled. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" Breathing, slow and measured. Then, "Stay away from us." The father's voice, rough with something between warning and desperation. "For your own sake, stay away." Why? "Because my son is beginning to care about you. And nothing I care about survives." The line went dead. Clara stood in her doorway, watching dark shapes swim in the deep water, and wondered what she had invited into her life with one simple dance. Clara should have heeded the warning. Instead, she found herself driving to the cliffs on her day off, telling herself she needed the walk to clear her mind. The morning was gray and cold. the kind of coastal fog that swallowed sound and made the world feel like a held breath. She didn't expect to find Noah there. He sat alone in his wheelchair near the cliff's edge, a sketchbook balanced on his lap. No Rolls-Royce in sight, no overprotective father hovering, just a pale boy drawing the sunrise that hadn't quite broken through the clouds. Noah. Clara approached carefully, afraid he might startle and roll too close to the edge. Does your father know you're here? The boy's hand froze mid-stroke. He's sleeping. He sleeps all day. Noah turned, and his smile was guilty. I called a car service, spent my allowance. I needed to see the sunrise. Before I can't anymore. Before what? Before I can fade away completely. The words hung heavily. Clara knelt beside the wheelchair, looking at his sketch. He had drawn the ocean beautifully, each wave detailed, each shadow precise. But the sun in his drawing was black. That's haunting, she said softly. It's how I see it now. Father says soon I'll need to avoid daylight completely, that my condition is progressing. Noah's fingers trembled on the pencil. I used to love mornings, used to run on beaches, used to be normal. Claire's chest tightened. How long have you been sick? 3 years, since Mother died. He stated it matter-of-factly, but his eyes glistened. Father says I'm caught between two worlds, that I must choose soon, but I don't want either choice. What are the choices? Noah looked at her then, truly looked at her, and Clara saw something ancient in those young eyes. To fade away completely, or to become something I fear? Before Clara could respond, Noah shifted forward in his chair. Can you push me closer? I want to smell the ocean, feel the spray. Your father would kill me. He's not here. Noah's grin was mischievous, almost normal. Please, I've been trapped in that dark house for weeks. I'm exhausted from being afraid. Clara couldn't refuse that plea. She gripped the wheelchair handles and pushed him along the cliff path, closer to where the waves crashed against rocks below. The wind strengthened, carrying salt spray that misted their faces. There, Noah breathed. That's perfect. Tell me what you smell since you're the artist. Salt and kelp? Something ancient underneath, like the ocean remembers every ship that sunk, every life it claimed. He closed his eyes. And something else, something that smells like copper and storms.
Blood, Clara thought. He's describing blood. Your turn, Noah said. What do you see? Clara gazed out at the gray water. I see possibility. Every wave is different. Every morning the ocean is new. I wish I could walk it with you, really walk, run even. Noah's voice cracked. I wish I could be the person I was before. You're still that person. No, he opened his eyes, and they were wet. That person is dying. What comes after? Father says it won't truly be me. A chill ran down Clara's spine. Noah, what exactly is your condition? He opened his mouth to answer. A shadow fell across them. Clara? Clara spun. The father stood 20 feet away, appearing from nowhere as though he had materialized from the fog itself. His face was fury incarnate. Step away from my son. The command was absolute. Clara's hands left the wheelchair automatically, some primal part of her brain recognizing a predator's voice. Noah twisted in his seat. Father, please! I just wanted... You wanted sunlight. You wanted morning air. You wanted to feel human. He reached them, positioning himself between Clara and Noah. And every moment you spend in daylight hastens what's coming. I don't care. You will. The father's voice broke. When the hunger begins, when you look at her and see nothing but a beating heart, you'll care.
The words struck Clara like ice water. She stumbled backward. The father turned to her, and his eyes were desperate now, almost pleading. "He hasn't smiled like this in years. I watched from the road. I watched you give him joy." He swallowed hard. "But joy makes him hope, and hope makes the transformation more difficult when it arrives." "Transformation into what?" Clara whispered. The father's smile was bitter. "Ask me what I am, Clara. Ask me what Noah is becoming." The sun broke through the clouds then, pale and weak. The father flinched, raising his hand to shield his face. Where the light touched his skin, thin wisps of smoke rose. Noah made a small, broken sound, and Clara understood. "Oh, God," she breathed. "No," the father said quietly. "The opposite of God. We're the opposite of everything holy." He lifted Noah's wheelchair, turned, and walked back toward the darkness of the trees. Noah looked back once, mouthing 2 words, "I'm sorry." Clara stood alone on the cliff as the sun climbed higher, and for the first time in her life, she felt grateful for light. The town began talking 3 days later. Old Bill Mackenzie, who had fished these waters for 40 years, came into the diner shaking. His coffee sat untouched while he told anyone who would listen about the pale figures he'd seen swimming near the rocks at 3 a.m. "Not natural," he muttered. "Moved too quickly, dove too deep, and their eyes," he shuddered, "glowed like coins at the bottom of a well." Jenny rolled her eyes. "Bill, you were probably drunk." "Stone sober," he insisted. "Tommy saw them too." But Tommy Chun, the harbor master, wasn't talking. He'd quit his night shift and refused to go near the docks after dark. His wife told people he woke screaming about things with teeth swimming beneath the boats. Clara listened to it all, her stomach in knots. She hadn't seen Noah or his father since the cliffs. Part of her felt relieved. The other part, the foolish, kind part, worried about the boy. On the 4th night, she worked the closing shift alone. Jenny had called in sick, and Clara didn't mind. The diner was empty by 11. Just her, the hum of the refrigerator, and the distant crash of waves. She was counting the register when she felt it, that electric charge in the air, the same sensation from the night the seagulls went mad. Clara looked up. He stood outside the window, Noah's father, perfectly still in the parking lot, fog curling around him like living smoke. He wasn't looking at the diner. He was looking at the ocean, his face turned towards something she couldn't see. Then his eyes shifted, met hers, and glowed. Not brown, not human, crimson like embers in the dark. Clara's hand found her phone, but she couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He raised one hand, not threatening, almost apologetic, and then turned and walked into the fog, not toward a car, just into the darkness, moving with that impossible grace. She was at the door before her brain caught up, unlocking it, stepping into the cold. Wait. Foolish. So foolish. But he stopped. Turned. Up close, she could observe the inhuman beauty of him, the way his skin seemed luminous, the sharp angles of his face too perfect to be natural. He looked like a painting of how people wished they appeared. "You shouldn't follow me," he said. "You've been watching the diner every night, haven't you? Standing out here. Why?" "To ensure you're safe." "From what?" His jaw tightened. "From me. From Noah. From what's coming. The fishermen, the things they're seeing, are my people," he said flatly. "Searching. They know I'm here. They know about Noah." His eyes dropped to her throat, where her pulse hammered. "They know about you." Clara wrapped her arms around herself. "What do they want?" "Noah." He paused. "They want to take him, complete his transformation in their way, make him into a weapon." His voice was hollow. "He's the first child born between our kinds in 3 centuries. His blood could change everything. His mother was human, like you." The father, Lord Kale, she remembered Noah calling him once, looked at her with something between anger and sorrow. I loved her completely. It destroyed her. How? Because loving me meant hiding. It meant watching our son inherit a curse she couldn't cure. She lasted 13 years. Then her heart simply stopped, as though she'd used up all her light keeping Noah alive. Clara's throat burned. And Noah is dying the same way? His human half wars with what I gave him. Every moment of joy, every sunrise, every dance. His voice cracked. It makes his human side stronger, but only temporarily. Eventually, the vampire in him will prevail. It always does. Unless... Kale's laugh was bitter. Unless he finds what my kind call a light blood. A human descended from ancient lines, with blood so pure it can stabilize the transformation. Make him truly both, instead of neither. He finally looked at her. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Clara's legs felt weak. The cut. You reacted to my blood. Because I could smell it. Smell what you are. Kale took a step closer. Noah's body recognized it too. Why do you think he felt better after being near you? Why do you think he can't stop speaking about you? That's impossible. I'm just descended from his mother's bloodline. Distant, but there. Kale's eyes blazed. Which means my son will need you, will crave you, and I cannot allow that to happen. Why not, if I can help? Because the process of stabilization requires your blood regularly, voluntarily, and eventually, Clara, you won't have any left to give, just like his mother.
The fog rolled thicker. Somewhere in the darkness, something splashed. They're here, Kyle said. Go inside, lock the doors, forget about us. I can't just... You can. You will. He was already moving backward, dissolving into shadow. Because if you don't, you'll die, and this time, I won't have anyone left to mourn. He vanished. Clara stood in the empty parking lot, her breath fogging the air, and knew she should run, should lock the door, quit her job, leave this cursed town. Instead, she pulled out her phone and texted the number that had called her days ago. Where is Noah? Is he all right? The response came immediately. He asks about you every day. He's not all right. Please stay away. Clara looked at the message, at the ocean where pale shapes swam in hungry circles, and made her choice. Give me your address. I'm coming. A long pause. Then, you'll regret this. Probably. Send it anyway. The address came through. A manor on the far cliffs. Of course. Clara locked up the diner, got in her car, and drove toward the darkness. Some choices, she thought, aren't really choices at all. The manor rose from the cliffs like a monument to forgotten centuries. Clara's headlights swept across iron gates, stone walls strangled by ivy, and windows that reflected nothing. The gates stood open, waiting for her. She killed the engine, and the silence pressed in like water. The front door opened before she knocked. Kyle stood backlit by candlelight. Not electric lights, actual candles. Dozens of them, casting shadows that moved incorrectly. You came. He didn't sound surprised, just resigned. Where's Noah? Sleeping. The transformation exhausts him. Kyle stepped aside. Come in. Since you're determined to throw your life away, you should at least understand what you're offering it for. The interior was breathtaking and horrible. Grand staircases spiraled upward into darkness. Furniture that belonged in museums sat beneath portraits of people in Renaissance clothing, medieval armor, ancient Roman togas. And in every painting, every single one, the same dark eyes stared out. Kyle's eyes. Clara stopped before a portrait dated 1523.
The man in it wore Spanish nobility clothing and had Kyle's exact face. That's you. Yes. She moved to the next, 1401. Same face. Then 1156. How old are you? Clara whispered. I stopped counting after the first millennium. Kyle walked past her, his footsteps silent on marble floors. He led her to a library, walls of books in languages she didn't recognize. He pulled one down, opened it to reveal not text, but pressed flowers. Dead roses, brown and brittle. From my wife's garden. His finger traced a petal. Sarah, Noah's mother. I met her in 2009. She was researching coastal folklore for her doctorate. She thought vampires were mythology. His smile was broken. I tried to warn her, tried to stay away, but she was like you. Stubborn and kind, and utterly unafraid of things that should terrify her. Clara's chest ached. What happened? We had 6 years. 6 perfect, impossible years. Then Noah was born, and everything changed. Kyle closed the book carefully. Vampire-human hybrids don't survive birth. The strain kills them. But Sarah was special. Her bloodline traced back to the Daughters of Light, an ancient order. Her blood kept Noah alive in the womb, and after he needed her constantly. Not just a mother's love, her actual blood. Small amounts, transfused weekly. It stabilized his dual nature. Kyle's hands trembled. She gave willingly, proudly. She believed she was saving him. She was. She was killing herself. The words exploded from him. Every transfusion weakened her, but she refused to stop. She would smile and say, "He's worth it. Our son is worth anything." Until one morning, her heart simply gave out. She was 34. Clara sank into a chair. And now Noah needs someone with her bloodline, a compatible light blood. Kyle's eyes found hers. I smelled it the moment you cut yourself. Tested it when Noah improved after being near you. Your blood carries the same markers as Sarah's. So I give him transfusions, keep him stable. For how long, Clara? A year? 5? Kyle's voice cracked. Sarah lasted 13 years because she was his mother, bonded to him from conception. You're a stranger. Your body will deplete faster. The mathematics are simple and cruel. You'll have perhaps 3 years before your heart follows hers. The candles flickered. Somewhere upstairs, floorboards creaked. He's awake, Kyle said. He heard your car. He's been waiting by his door since you texted. Can I see him? Why? So he can hope? So I can watch another woman He stopped, looked away. So I can watch another person Noah loves die for him. Clara stood. You don't get to make this choice for me. I'm his father, and I'm the only chance he has. Clara moved toward the stairs. Which room? Kyle caught her arm. His grip was cold and impossibly strong. Listen to me. My kind, the others, they're circling. They want Noah's power, his bloodline. If they discover you're here, they'll come for you both. And I can't... His voice broke completely. I can't lose him. He's all I have left of her. Then stop trying to push away the person attempting to help him. They stared at each other. Slowly, Kyle released her arm. 3rd door on the left. 2nd floor. He turned away. I'll be in the cellar. I can't watch this. Clara climbed the stairs, her heart pounding. She found the door, light spilling underneath. She knocked softly. Come in. Noah sat in his wheelchair by the window, moonlight painting him silver. He looked thinner than before, more translucent. But when he saw her, his face transformed with joy. You came. He said you wouldn't. Clara crossed the room, kneeling by his chair. I'm here, and I'm not leaving. He told you, didn't he? What I need, what it costs. Noah's eyes were wet. You should run. Probably, but I'm terrible at doing what I should. Outside, thunder rumbled, not from clouds, but from the ocean. The water was rising, churning, and in its depths, dozens of pale figures swam toward shore. "They're coming," Noah whispered. "They always come when there's a blood moon." Clara looked out. The moon hung huge and red above the water, and silhouettes rose from the waves. Vampires, dozens of them, eyes glowing like scattered embers. "Then we'd better be ready," Clara said. The first window shattered at midnight. Clara grabbed Noah's wheelchair, pulling him back as glass exploded inward. A figure landed in the room, a woman with seaweed in her hair and eyes like frozen stars. She smiled, revealing teeth filed to points. The half-blood prince and his new pet. Kyle materialized between them, moving faster than Clara's eyes could track. He caught the woman by the throat and hurled her back through the window. Her scream cut off as she struck the rocks below. "There are more," Kyle said, his voice deadly calm. 30, perhaps 40. They've been waiting for this, for you to come here and confirm what they suspected."
He turned to Clara, and his eyes were fully crimson now, all pretense of humanity gone. "Take Noah to the cellar. There's a passage to the caves. You can escape through there." The door exploded. 3 vampires poured in, men in rotting clothes that reeked of the sea. Kyle met them head-on, his movements a blur of impossible violence. Blood sprayed, black, not red, vampire blood. "Go," he roared. Clara pushed Noah's wheelchair into the hallway. Behind them, the sounds of combat, crashes, screams, the wet sound of tearing flesh. The manor shook on its foundations. "The stairs," Noah gasped. I can't." More vampires were climbing through windows, dropping from the ceiling like spiders. Clara saw the cellar door ahead, but it was downstairs. She would never make it, pushing the wheelchair. A vampire blocked their path, a boy who couldn't have been more than 16 when he turned. His grin was feral. "Fresh blood," he whispered, lunging. Clara swung wildly, her fist connected with his jaw. He burned. The boy shrieked, stumbling back, smoke rising from where she'd touched him. He stared at his face in a broken mirror, at the cross-shaped mark searing his skin. "Light blood, you're—" Kyle appeared from nowhere, snapping the boy's neck. He turned to Clara, breathing hard. "Your blood is poison to them. Stay close to Noah." "The cellar?" "Forget the cellar. They're already inside." Kyle's face was grim. "We make our stand here." He kicked open a door, a bedroom frozen in time. Photographs covered the walls, a woman with kind eyes and Noah's smile, laughing in every picture. Noah's mother. Kyle positioned them in the center. "Whatever happens, stay together. They want Noah alive, but they'll kill you without hesitation." The vampires poured in, 10, 15, more. They surrounded them, circling like sharks. Their leader, a tall man with a crown of coral in his hair, stepped forward. "Lord Kyle, vampire king in exile. Give us the boy. He belongs with his own kind. He belongs to me. He belongs to power," the coral-crowned vampire smiled. "His blood can create a new generation, stronger, immune to light. He's evolution, Kyle, and you're keeping him weak with human sentiment. He's my son. He's a weapon." They attacked as one. Kyle fought like a god of death, ripping, tearing, moving too fast to follow. But there were too many. They dragged him down, pinning him. Kyle heard him scream, not in pain, but in fury. The coral-crowned vampire approached Noah. "Come, young prince. Your transformation awaits." "No," Noah's voice was small but firm. "You have no choice. Your human half is dying. Join us, or fade to nothing." Clara's mind raced. The dance. Noah had felt better after they danced. "Joy makes the human side stronger," Kyle had said. She grabbed Noah's hands. "Remember the diner? Remember the song?" "Clara, you can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." Clara pulled him forward in his chair, spinning him slowly. "Dance with me, like before." The vampires laughed. Their leader shook his head. "How pathetic. You think a song will save him?"
But Noah was changing. His eyes, which had been turning red, showing the vampire winning, began to clear. Gray returned, warm and human. Color touched his cheeks. Clara sang louder, spinning him faster. "At last, my love has come along." "Stop them," the coral-crowned vampire commanded, but the other vampires hesitated. Smoke was rising from Noah, not burning but glowing. Light poured from his skin, soft and golden. Where it touched the attacking vampires, they recoiled, hissing. "Impossible," their leader breathed. "The human side should be too weak." "It's not his side." Kyle's voice was strange with wonder. He had broken free, stood watching. "It's hers. Her light is feeding his." Clara felt it too, a warmth flowing from her chest, down her arms, into Noah's hands. Her blood sang, resonating with something ancient in his. Noah's wheelchair lifted slightly off the ground. "Keep dancing," he whispered. "Don't stop." The light grew brighter. The vampires scattered, shrieking, fleeing through windows and doors. Their leader stood firm, but even he raised his hand to shield his eyes. "This isn't finished, Kyle." Then he was gone, diving through a window into the sea. The light faded. Noah slumped in his chair, exhausted but alive, more alive than Clara had ever seen him. His skin held warmth. His heartbeat was strong. Kyle knelt before them, and for the first time tears ran down his ancient face. "You saved him," he whispered. "You both saved him." Outside, dawn was breaking. The sun rose over the ocean, and the vampires were gone, fled back to whatever darkness spawned them. Clara collapsed, her body drained. The last thing she saw before unconsciousness claimed her was Noah smiling, truly smiling, as golden light played across his face. Clara woke to sunlight on her face. Real sunlight, warm and golden, streaming through windows that should have been covered. She sat up disoriented, in an unfamiliar bed. Sarah's room. She recognized the photographs on the walls, but the heavy curtains were pulled back, morning light flooding everything. "You're awake." Kyle sat in a chair by the door, appearing more human than she'd ever seen him. Still pale, still impossibly beautiful, but softer somehow. The predatory edge had dulled. "How long was I unconscious?" 18 hours. He stood, moving to the window. "You depleted yourself. The light you gave Noah should have killed you. But you're still here, still breathing." Clara touched her chest. She felt hollowed out, but alive, like a bell that had been struck too hard. "Noah." "See for yourself." Kyle opened the door. Noah wheeled himself in, but everything about him was different. His skin held healthy color. His eyes were bright gray with only the faintest red rim around the iris. He moved to the wheelchair with strength, not fragility. "Clara." He rolled to her bedside. Grasping her hand, his touch was warm, not cold. "Warm?" "You did it. You actually did it." "Did what?" "Stabilized me." Noah's grin was incandescent. "The doctor came this morning, Father's personal physician, the only human who knows what we are. He said my blood work is balanced. For the first time in 3 years, I'm not dying." Clara looked at Kyle. "How?" "Your light didn't just feed his human side. It married both halves together." Kyle's voice was soft with wonder. "He's truly both now, vampire and human in harmony. Not fighting, not consuming each other, coexisting." "But the cost, you said—" "I was wrong." Kyle moved closer. "Sarah gave transfusions constantly because Noah was an infant, dependent. But you gave him something different. Not sustenance, transformation. One moment of pure light that rewrote his entire biology." He paused. "You gave him what I never could, a choice." Clara's throat tightened. "And the other vampires?" "Gone, for now." Kyle's jaw hardened. "They'll return eventually. They always do. But Noah's transformation changes the equation. He's not a weapon anymore. He's proof that our kind can be more than monsters." "Or a bigger threat," Noah said, "if they can replicate what happened." "They can't." Kyle's voice was firm. "It required a light blood descended from his mother's line, giving freely out of love. That's not something that can be manufactured or forced." His eyes found Clara's. "It was a miracle, one we don't deserve."
Silence fell. Outside, seagulls called. Normal sounds, not panicked screams. The world felt lighter. "Can you walk?" Clara asked Noah suddenly. The boy's face fell. "No, the wheelchair is still... I'm better, but my legs." "Have you tried?" Noah glanced at his father. Cale's expression was unreadable. "The paralysis is old, from before the transformation began. A car accident when he was 9, but his body just rewrote itself," Clara said. She slid out of bed, steadier than she felt. "Perhaps it rewrote everything." She extended her hand. Noah stared at it as though it might vanish. "I'll fall." "Then I'll catch you." Slowly, trembling, Noah reached up. Clara pulled gently. Cale moved to help, but she shook her head. "Let him try." Noah's feet touched the floor. He put weight on them and gasped. "I feel them. I actually feel..." His legs buckled. Cale caught him instantly, lowering him back to the chair. But Noah was laughing through tears. "I felt them. For 3 years, nothing, and I felt them." "It's progress," Cale said, his voice thick. "More than I dared hope." Clara knelt by the wheelchair. "You're going to walk again. I know it." "How can you know?" "Because you're stubborn and your father's stubborn, and apparently I'm stubborn too." She smiled. "We're all too stubborn for anything else." Cale moved to the window, his back to them. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. "There's something you should see." Clara and Noah joined him. He raised his hand, placing it in direct sunlight streaming through the glass. Nothing happened. No smoke, no burns, just pale skin in golden light. "Since the attack, since you saved Noah, something changed in me as well." He turned, and his eyes were wet. "For 1,000 years, I've hidden from the sun, hated it, feared it. But this morning, I walked outside. I stood on the cliff where I proposed to Sarah, and the sun touched me." His voice broke. "And I didn't burn. I felt warmth, real warmth, like being human again." Noah wheeled forward, taking his father's hand. "Her light, it's still in us, both of us." Cale looked at Clara, and in his ancient eyes she saw something she hadn't seen before. Hope. "You gave me back my son. You gave him balance." He struggled for words. "And you gave me the sunrise. After 1,000 years of darkness, you gave me dawn." Clara's vision blurred. "I just danced with him." "No." Cale's smile was broken and beautiful. "You loved him without condition, without fear. That's what saved us." He paused. "That's what light truly is, not sunshine. Love." Outside, the sun climbed higher, painting the ocean gold. And for the first time in centuries, a vampire king stood in its light and smiled. 6 weeks later, the diner reopened with new management. Clara flipped the sign to open and stepped back to admire the changes. Fresh paint, repaired booths, a new espresso machine that actually worked. And in the corner, the old jukebox, restored, polished, playing music that now sounded crisp instead of haunted. "Too much cinnamon in the batter," Cale called from the kitchen. "I'm a 1,000-year-old vampire king, and you're critiquing my pancake recipe?" "I'm a 1,000-year-old vampire king with standards. Also, we're out of maple syrup again because someone keeps drinking it straight from the bottle." "I have a condition," Noah wheeled through the swinging door, balancing plates on his lap. His movements were confident now, practiced. "It's called being 12 and liking sweet things." The morning crowd trickled in. Fishermen, tourists, locals who had learned not to ask too many questions about the pale father and son who ran the diner's night shifts. They came for the excellent coffee and stayed for the peculiar warmth of the place, the feeling that something magical happened here after dark. Clara poured coffee for old Bill Mackenzie. "Any more sightings, Bill?" "Not a one," he sipped gratefully. "Whatever was out there, it's gone. Town feels safer." "Good," Cale said quietly, refilling his cup. "That's how it should feel." The day passed in the comfortable rhythm of work. Clara taught Cale the register. He kept trying to give discounts to families with children. Noah handled the jukebox, curating playlists that somehow knew exactly what people needed to hear. By evening, the dinner rush had ended. Jenny had left, the last customers were gone, just the three of them cleaning up. "I have something to show you," Noah said suddenly. He locked his wheelchair and placed his hands on the armrests. Clara and Cale froze. Slowly, trembling, Noah pushed himself upward. His legs trembled, his face contorted with effort, but he stood. Not for long, perhaps 5 seconds, before collapsing back with a triumphant gasp. 5 seconds longer than yesterday," he panted. "Tomorrow, perhaps 7. Cale kneeled before him, pressing his forehead to Noah's. "Your mother would be so proud. She'd probably cry and burn dinner." Noah's laugh was wet. "Like you did last week." "I didn't burn it. I charred it intentionally for flavor." "It was a hockey puck, Father." Clara watched them, this impossible family, and felt her heart swell. They had fallen into a routine. Mornings at the diner, afternoons at the manor, where Noah did physical therapy and Cale read century-old books in the sunlight, evenings, together, cooking terrible dinners and arguing about music. It wasn't perfect. Noah still needed rest. Cale still flinched at sudden movements, and Clara still woke some nights with memories of glowing eyes and black blood. But it was theirs. "One more thing before we close," Noah said, a mischievous glint in his eye. He wheeled to the jukebox and pressed a button. At Last began to play. "No! We've danced to this song 100 times. And we'll dance 100 more, unless you're too tired." She took his hand, spinning him slowly, but this time Cale stepped forward. "May I?" His voice was hesitant. Clara's breath caught. "I thought you didn't dance." "I haven't, not since Sarah." He swallowed hard. "But she would want me to. She would say I was being dramatic and foolish, hiding from joy because I fear losing it." Clara took his hand, cold still, but no longer frightening. They swayed together while Noah wheeled circles around them, conducting with his free hand. "You look ridiculous," Cale told his son. "You look happy," he shot back. "It's disturbing." They danced as the sun set, painting the ocean in shades of amber and rose. Through the window, Clara could see the cliffs where she'd first learned the truth, where everything had changed. "What happens now?" she asked softly. Cale's arms tightened slightly. "Now we live. We run a diner. We help knock. We survive. And the others, the vampires who want him? They'll learn that some things are worth more than power." Cale's eyes met hers. Family. Love. Dawn. The song ended. Noah yawned, still human enough to need sleep. "Bed," Cale ordered gently. "I'm not tired." "You're falling asleep in your chair." "Am not. Just resting my eyes while thinking about—" He was asleep. Cale lifted him carefully, cradling his son for a moment, backlit by the dying sun. They appeared like a painting, something eternal and beautiful. "Thank you," Cale said to Clara, "for all this, for him, for me. Thank you for trusting me." He carried Noah toward the back door where the Rolls-Royce waited, but he paused, looking back. "Same time tomorrow?" "Same time tomorrow," Clara confirmed.
She watched them drive away, then locked up the diner. The ocean whispered against the shore. Stars emerged, scattered like diamonds. Clara stood on the porch, breathing salt air, and smiled. No one had died. No one had vanished. No great sacrifice had been required in the end. Just kindness, stubbornness, and the willingness to dance in the dark. She looked up at the rising moon, silver now, not red, and made a promise to herself, to Sarah's memory, to the peculiar little family she'd found. Tomorrow, they would make pancakes with less cinnamon. Tomorrow, Noah would stand for 6 seconds. Tomorrow, Kale would smile in the sunshine. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. As many tomorrows as they could steal from the darkness. Clara turned off the lights, leaving only